And now it's Deborah Cobelt Live and Little Italy Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on Deborah Cobalt Live and my Little Italy podcast. And joining me, Bryan and Stephanie Mazzarello, who are here to talk about their incredible short film, Make Me Italian. Wrote it, directed it, produced it. Steph was the production designer. And this is just a darling, fun, and delightful short film. Very, very well shot. I just loved it. I really did. Thanks for joining us.
Buongiorno. Thanks for having us on here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and what I love about this film, so many people would love to get their Italian passport. They would love to become an Italian citizen for those of us who were born Italian American. It can be very daunting, right? So when I watch this, I'm like, how did he do it? And it kind of goes through your story, right? Even though it's a fictional film, but it's based pretty much on what happened with you. Can you both go through this film, what it's about, please?
Absolutely. I think the easiest way to say is a story of someone who's an outsider who longs to be an insider. And
Yeah.
it does follow a similar journey, which I got my Italian citizenship in 2016 through the
Right.
San Francisco Italian Consulate. We meet a lot of Italian Americans. We find that people like me that are third generation really want to find a way to connect to their roots, and they're trying to figure out how to do that. And to me, the most powerful experience was getting that dual citizenship. And so when we were sitting back and writing some scripts, we were realizing one of the big stories we wanted to tell was let's tell a comedy story of what it's like to get your dual citizenship.
Yeah, because Bryan's a very elaborate storyteller. So this is one of his favorite dinner stories. He likes like at a dinner party, he's like, okay, like I have to tell this citizenship story because he loves people getting excited about Italy and Italian culture, and like he's always trying to find like an Italian American, like, do you want to be a citizen? You can do it, like I did.
Good, because you're going to help me do it, Bryan. That's what we're going to do here, right? I mean, I'm gonna be calling you up. But what I love is you didn't exactly grow up with the meatballs every week and the relatives talking all day and night and coming over like I did. That is the traditional Italian American way of growing up, not necessarily Italian, because I've been in Italy and it is very different than being Italian American. I think they came over here and then made it their own way here in
Right.
America.
That's
But
right.
so you didn't really have that traditional Italian American upbringing. It was sort of later on in life that you discovered your Italian roots. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my family was definitely American first. We grew up on the West Coast. All my
Yeah.
Sicilian family immigrated to Milwaukee, so I have a big contingency of Milwaukee Sicilians, which are very different than East Coast,
Yeah.
maybe Italians that you'd see more prominent in the media. So when I ever saw Italian American identity in television and film, I couldn't really relate to it, but it looked enticing
Right.
and exciting. But for me, the big experience was I graduated from college and I did a backpacking trip through Europe. And the majority of that trip was spent on the Italian peninsula. And I started in Venice and I worked my way all the way down to Sicily, where I met my cousins. And when I got to meet my cousins, they took me in as if I was the first cousin. They were my third cousins, but immediately they took me in. And it was transformational. It was a transformational experience for me. And they even took me to my ancestral house where my great grandmother was born, and my great grandfather left when he was
Wow.
16 to come to America.
Yeah. And we were dating at the time. When he came back from the trip, he actually freaked my mom out because he's like, I'm moving to Italy. Like, I'm going to move there. And my mom's wheels are turning. Like, he's going to take my baby from me. Like, he was already obsessed.
It just
What?
clicked right
Go.
away.
Yeah, that's what I want to know, because I'll tell you, I had a similar experience and I brought my sons with me to where my family is from, which was outside of Avellino in a very small mountain community of
Yeah.
Monalcozati, right? And
I
boy,
love
if
that
they
you know
didn't,
that, though. I love that you know your village. That's so important.
how could you not? I don't quite understand people who are not curious to find out where they come from. If you're fortunate enough to have the means to grab an airline ticket and go somewhere and find out where you're from, that's a great gift, right?
Absolutely. I think, when you hear Italian Americans go like, oh yeah, I went to Italy, I went to Florence, and I went to Rome. And then I go, but 80% of Italian Americans come from the Mezzogiorno, the south of Italy. Yeah, Avellino and the Campania region, Basilicata, Puglia, Sicily. So yeah, that's where they need to go down to. And they're going to have a life-changing experience when they do and come up to their roots.
Or wherever you're from in Italy, right? Because I know my family welcomed me just the way yours did. And same thing, they were my third cousins and probably beyond. They took me everywhere. They took me to see the grave sites. They took me to where, they took me to where, my grandfather had the vineyard, and they were talking about my great grandfather and my dad and uncle. And I thought, gosh, my grandfather was harvesting food here. And they talked about his relationship with America, and because of that, why they're doing well in Italy. Like they put the whole package together for me. Is that what happened to you?
Yeah, and I even had this incredible story. I'm getting chills thinking about it. I had this incredible experience where I found out that my great grandmother, Teresa Sperna, was married to Francesco Mazzarello. These are my immigrant great grandparents who came to Milwaukee from Sicily. They're a village apart on one train stop apart from each other, but they met in Milwaukee.
Right.
But she would bundle up clothes and put money inside of it and send it to Sicily during the war. And my cousins to this day still remember it, because some of my cousins are older and they would live through that experience. And so they always felt connected to this Italian American family that was over here, but not all my cousins had the experience of being able to go there. So when that happened, I was one of the first, I think the first of my generation to be able to go there. And they took me to the house up on the hill looking over the Aeolian Islands.
Wow.
The Mediterranean Sea. And I'm standing underneath their chestnut trees and the lemon trees of my family, the olive trees. And I'm seeing the bread oven that my great grandmother baked oven in that fed us. Like, I wouldn't have existed without this property and the nourishment that this land gave. And I was just thinking how incredible it was. So when I returned to the US, I was always dreaming back of Sicily and dreaming back of my time in Italy. And but I didn't have the last name Mazzarello when I was born.
Yeah. What was it?
I was born with the last name Morell, Marell. My grandfather in 1958 Americanized it exactly the same way Steve Carell had his family name changed. His grandfather changed it from Caroselli to Carell. And my grandfather changed ours from Mazzarello to Morell to become American, to be seen as like neutral, to be seen as accepted. So he thought he could get a higher promotion in the US military at the time when he was in the Air Force. And he felt there was a stigma still around Sicilian Americans, Italian Americans. So I changed it back though 4 days before Stephanie and I got married, and I didn't tell anyone. So when they announced us man and wife at the wedding, they said, we now pronounce you husband and wife, Bryan and Stephanie Mazzarello. Yeah. And my Italian side of the family about fell out of their chairs at the wedding in Long Beach.
Really sweet.
Wait, hold on. Did you have to explain it to them? Like,
well, we had a big announcement at the reception because everybody's like, wait, what's happening? What's happening? And then my grandfather got up on the microphone and did an impromptu speech about how he's so proud of me that I changed it back. And my aunts were so proud of me that I changed it back. And we're living in a time now where we're fortunate enough. It's cool to actually be Italian and Italian American. So, and I benefited from that. But as soon as Steph and I became Mazzarello at the same time in 2002, it changed us and put us on a different trajectory.
Yeah, for sure.
How? Explain to me.
Well, now we're carrying this really ethnic Italian last name that even Italians are like, wow, that's really Italian.
That's Italian name. Yeah, well, no, I got you. So.
And for me, it's like I'm not Italian, but my family is like, we're just not connected to where we come from. Like it's Scottish, it's English, it's German, it's Polish, but there's no family to connect to. So the only family that we had to connect to in Europe is the Sicilian family. And when we went there for the first time, for me, it was just like, okay, I'm in. Like I get this, the way people communicate, the way they walk through life, the way they eat, especially, like, has become an obsession for me. There's something that's tactile and beautiful and intentional about the culture that just spoke to me like immediately. And so like whenever I hand somebody, my driver's license or credit card, they're like, oh, mozzarella. And I'm like, am I really? I'm not really Italian, but in my heart I am. So yes, mozzarella. Yeah, that's
And
me.
my cugini back in Sicilia, they say, Stephanie, you are truly Italian. And they keep trying to find out maybe there's some great grandparent somewhere that she doesn't know about because they're convinced that she is.
Yeah.
Well, that's really funny because when we were with my family over in Italy, my boys are half Italian because I'm full-blooded, and my husband is full-blooded Polish. His father's from Poland. And it's funny because my relatives would say, you, my kids, 3 sons, you, Polish one, they'd say, It was very, very funny. They were just sort of joking with us. They didn't speak very good English at all, just the younger ones. And sadly, I can understand Italian fairly well, but I can't speak it as well as I'd like to. I'm trying. I'm really trying.
I think there's so many of us that feel that way. Yeah.
I know, but I want to get better at it. And if I let it go even for a week, I forget half the words. Like, you've got to really speak it. And as my cousin said, Deborah, you've got to go there for an entire summer. Like, I have the time to do that. I really don't. And immerse yourself and know English. That's just it. And I guess that's when I'll finally pick it up. But
we stayed there. We spent 2 months in Italy in summer of 2019. That really helped our Italian language. And if you're not using it every day, it dwindles down a little bit.
Yeah. So we all went to dinner, my husband and the 4 of us who went to dinner at Italy, right over in Century City, about a year ago. And you were talking constantly about this film you wanted to do. And I thought, okay. So last year, I say that for a reason. It's exceptional. I don't know how you did this so quickly, because you started it, I believe, April of last year in 2023?
We shot April and May last year. Exactly.
Yeah. I have to say the production design on this stuff is absolutely fabulous. Starting with the opening shot of the car parking in front of what is to be the Italian consul office. Is that correct?
Yeah, the consul office.
So from that moment, I thought, oh, this is going to be great. So how did you pull this off? The actors, the writing of it, which I believe you probably had already written it, just all of it, the direction, getting the actors, editing it, and just getting it out there so quickly, because you did it very fast.
Well, a film is so fun because it's a team effort. Both of us are team sports people.
Yeah.
And we work for ourselves as we have a creative studio, the 2 of us. But which
we've been doing also for 15 years, we've been working with each other. So we have a very good communication around creativity. And so that provided a good foundation for it. Because this is our first film that we've ever made. But basically all the skills that we use in our graphic design studio were very much, you could lay it on top of
transferable to the film.
Yeah.
The difference was a crew of 53 people eventually that touched this film. It started with us going to the Italian Cultural Institute, and we met a family friend who introduced us to an actor named Luca Della Valle, who ultimately became a lead actor in our film and a consulting producer on it. And Luca, when we met Luca, we knew that's going to be our Italian consulate. So we converted our treatment to a finished script, and then got Luca in right away. And then Luca introduced us to a bunch of Italian actresses. And Luca's from your region of Italy. He's from Campania. He's just, I think, Napoli. And and he has that classic Southern Italian good looks. And we're like, this is our guy for our leading Italian consulate character. And then
he was fantastic.
Wasn't he?
Led that. Yes.
Wonderful.
He's phenomenal. And he introduced us to Nadia Lanfranconi, who is an Italian actress and musician here in Los Angeles. And she's originally from Northern Italy, but living here in LA now. And then it just kept expanding. We got most of our cast together.
Yeah. I mean, but I was doing stuff like finding cast on LinkedIn. I was looking up actors that speak Italian, and we were on Instagram looking for people, because it's not a huge cast, but it was really important that they actually be Italians. We didn't want anyone doing a fake Italian accent and pretending to be Italian.
Yeah, all characters that are portraying Italians are Italian-born actors living here in Los Angeles. That was really important.
Well, I have to say, even from the beginning when you entered the building, right? Because you were so excited, you had all your paperwork, and you had to sit there and wait. And I
Yes.
love that because as an Italian American, when I show up somewhere with all Italians living here, I get a little nervous, right? Because
Yeah.
you got to have your stuff in a row, or
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
will look at you, they will look at you and go sit over there. And you're like, okay, no problem, because they've got the upper hand. And I
Yes.
also love, I don't want to give too much away. I do not want to do a spoiler alert for the film, the espresso versus the cappuccino, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Personal story. I made that mistake in Italy. And when I tell you, my cousins were horrified because I was jet lagged and I just wanted something. It was the middle of the day and I did the
Uh-oh.
cappuccino, but I did something worse. We were at a bakery. I should have just had a little baked good, but no, I had to get a piece of pizza with a cappuccino. I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
I know. I'm surprised they didn't just send me home.
Yeah,
but they were
that
very
was
kind.
for, deportation. Yeah.
No, so never would I do that again, ever. So I'm terribly sorry to all my relatives and anyone watching this. But I love that you had that in your film. No, you're not doing the cappuccino, which I think they were trying to trick you on, right? You do the espresso.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is the little nuances and details in this film, spot on. Go ahead, Steph.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's for us is because going to Italy and traveling there and trying to learn about the culture. And I think for both of us, Bryan not really growing up in a tight-knit Italian American community, and me not being Italian, it's really important for us to like understand and respect Italian culture.
Yes.
And for us, this was like kind of all of our years of connecting with Italians. Like this was sort of our like comedic love letter to this country that like we just find so wonderful and endearing, but also very particular.
That's right.
And like we giggle about certain things and like not knowing, like this isn't in the film, but we always get the seat by the air conditioner in a restaurant. And we think it's great because we're like hot and we're walking around as tourists, but you can just see like Italians being like, those people are going to get us cold. They're for sure going to get sick.
They're going to get sick and die from being next to a We have a very distinct experience in Venice where we're at a super crowded restaurant, one table available for 2 people. And I sit down and there's an air conditioning vent blowing on my lower back. And I'm like, oh, that's why, because Italians do not like air conditioning. And they're especially worried about like vents and breezes. And so we build that into the script as well, like all these things that we've picked up in our experience. But we did a table read in January last year. So 4 months before the film was actually shot. And I gathered a table read is when you gather all your cast together in a room and you read the script out loud. And we did it 3 times. And then improv came out of it. And we added some more cultural nuance. We also got cultural approval from all of our Italian cast about what's authentic. And we also secretly had an Italian consulate member in our table read also for additional, like, making sure we're checking all the boxes. And through that, we added in even some more cultural nuances, because some of the things we're trying to get to are Italian across the board. All Italians agree on as a cultural truth, because some things are just very regional. There's 20 regions of Italy, and so we had to make sure that everybody was on the same page. So some of the jokes we pulled out and we swapped them with other ones that everyone was like, this is true, because we had a broad range from northern Italy to southern Italy represented in our cast. And
I will say one person that we haven't mentioned yet that was literally crucial for making this happen was Courtney Tate, who is our producer, who we literally met at our rock climbing gym. And it was like magic finding her. I mean, she made like the things that we literally were like, when we would hit a wall and we're like, I don't know what is the next step. She's like, this is the next step. This is what we're doing next.
The amazing thing is that our first assistant director and our producer, when we shot it, were 29 years old. But their experience in Hollywood was so incredible. They had already worked on feature films and TV shows. And so when they came in, they ran this show like it was 100% a Hollywood production. And so it became a Hollywood production. I think when we were first shooting it, when we were first writing it, we were thinking maybe we'll just borrow a couple of cameras and some microphones. But as soon as Courtney came on board, the thing elevated to a whole nother level. We also have to give a shout out to the 90 supporters who financially supported this film. We raised $55,000, and we got our executive producer, which is Italy Mondo, which is the folks that actually helped me get my dual citizenship. They came on as executive producers and really supported it. And so we have to give a shout out to Peter Farina and the folks at Italy Mondo, who are based in Campobasso, Molise, Italy, who helped us finance this. The 90 supporters also were incredible to have them backing us.
And you can bet I'll be calling him. And I mean that, because I think you've already introduced us as well.
That's right.
Because I will personally need a lot of help doing this. It's a little complicated to me. In fact, you know, how are many of us able to get our citizenship? It dates back to 1912. Am I correct? Can you set us straight on that, please?
That's right. Yeah, it goes back to a law from 1912. Italy saw 20 million Italians leave Italy's shores and come to America between like the 1890s and like 1920s. During that time, Italy's like, wow, we're losing a lot of people, and now Italians are being born in America. So Italians are thinking, hey, how do we make sure those Italians born abroad come back to Italy or stay connected to Italy? And so they created this rule called Iure Sanguinis, which is the right of blood. I hope I'm saying that Latin phrase right. But basically, it's the right of blood, which is Italian citizenship is different than American citizenship. If you're born on American shores, you're an American. In Italy, it's through lineage, through your Italian ancestors. So your citizenship is literally coursing through your blood right now, Deborah. It's in your blood. And so that's what you claim. And so when I got my citizenship, I claimed Italian citizenship recognition. It's not an application to like, may I be Italian? Basically, I'm saying, will you as an Italian government recognize me born abroad as an Italian citizen? And so you prove your ancestral lineage through birth and deaths and marriage certificates between you and the last ancestor that left Italy. And that's what I did.
As long as that Italian did not renounce their citizenship, right, from Italy. Yes. I believe I have one, which was my fraternal grandfather, but my maternal grandmother and no, I don't know. 3 of them never denounced it.
When they renounced the citizenship. So if they had children and then renounced the citizenship, that child was already recognized as an Italian. So that's technically what happened for him. His great-grandfather came, had his grandfather, and then his grandfather actually helped his great-grandfather become an American citizen. So
my grandfather helped my great-grandfather take the application test to become a U.S. citizen, to naturalize. So he was already like 18, 19 when that happened. So that meant that he was born as an Italian citizen on American shores. And then that means my dad was born as an Italian citizen on shores. And then I'm born as an Italian citizen on American shores.
But that's part of the reason it's good to work with a company like Italy Mondo, because they know all of these little rules exist.
Let me be clear. I will need the help of them. Although my relatives in Italy have been very helpful, and they've been sending me paperwork. But putting it together and having it properly translated into Italian, you know, I think it's beneficial to get that kind of help.
Yeah, really you definitely don't want to show up at the consulate missing even one document, because then you get in the back of the line. So
I think there is there's an understanding that Americans have of Italians, that although Italians have la dolce vita and la bella vita, and il dolce far niente, these concepts of like the good life, Italians are also it's an old culture. And so they have really strict rules. And if your paperwork isn't perfectly lined up, you get back in line. There's no like, oh yeah, well, let's fix it on the spot. No, you'll get back in line. There's a huge line of people. And all your paperwork goes to your consulate wherever you live. There's 10 consulates in the US. And then that paperwork goes to Rome, and that Rome paperwork gets verified. So we play with that a little bit in the film, where he has his ducks in a row.
Yeah, and you know, he tried. He looked at every little piece to make sure, especially with the name change, right? From Morel to your current name.
That was, you had to do all of those paperwork in real life.
Yeah. I even had more. I had much more paperwork in real life than in the film.
But no one wants to see.
No one wants to see.
No.
You documents. So
you did the important stuff that mattered for the film. That was wonderful. Where did you shoot this? I'd like to know.
Yeah, so we
shot it here in Los Angeles. We shot it at a library at St. Mark's Church in Glendale. We shot it at Los Angeles's oldest Italian society, the Garibaldina Society.
Which both places were fantastic in letting us shoot there and have access to the space like ahead of time so that we could, because it was a lot of there's a lot of set design stuff that had to happen. And both organizations were fantastic to work with.
Yeah, and then we with the National Park Service to shoot in the Santa Monica Mountains, and we also shot in Malibu, on the Malibu Ventura County borderline on the beach. So it was
a little bit of everything.
Yeah, well, this was we actually
it was a family. It was a family.
We shot in 4 genres, so it was very ambitious. And it will only make sense if you watch the film.
Yeah. So that's my next question. That's my next question. How can people watch it, and what are your hopes for the film?
So we got introduced through our actress Nadia Lanfranconi to this incredible guy named Alessandro, who runs this company called We Short, based in Bari, Puglia. And it's a streaming service. It's the Netflix of short films. We Short signed, when we were in our fundraising phase, they actually signed a letter of intent that they would love to, when they see the film, stream it on their platform, because they stream short films. Then when we finished the film, we showed it to them, and they actually signed us as North America's first We Short original. So now we're an original film, sort of like you see Netflix originals. And they're distributing our film to European film festivals. We're applying on Film Freeway to film festivals here in the United States. But after a festival circuit, it will stream for 5 years on We Short's app and weshort.com.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And then also our goal is to eventually, we would love to do viewings at Italian clubs, organizations, maybe Italian cultural institutes. That would be a hope one day that we could do something like that. But I mean, we just, we already got interest from several Italian groups around the US, and specifically the San Francisco Italian Athletic Club, which has been around since like early 1900s. They have 900 members, and that we'll do a screening there once the festival season's over.
Yeah, so that's magnificent. Go ahead.
Oh, right now. So yeah, right now we're just in the middle of the application to festivals and waiting for that festival premiere. And then once that happens, then we're hoping to be able to bring it through some different media ways.
That's right.
Oh, it's absolutely magnificent. I'm sure you're not going to have a very difficult time with this. I know it is tough, but just getting it off and getting it started. But it's really a darling film. And it also shows you a lot of what a person has to go through to get their citizenship. It's funny. It's well shot. I told you I love the way you shot this. And everything about it, go ahead.
Bringing up well shot, I think one of the important things is we worked with an incredible cinematographer named Justin Kemper. And Justin put together an incredible grip and lighting team. His team was exceptional, and he was working on a Marvel TV show, and he brought over all of his crew from that to work on our film on the weekends while they were shooting 12, 14-hour days on a Marvel film, Marvel show. Oh, wow. Then they worked on the weekends with us. But we got a grant from Panavision. They have a special grant for young filmmakers or new filmmakers called the Panavision New Filmmakers Program Grant, and we were recipients of that grant. So we borrowed from them $750,000 worth of camera equipment and gear and lenses. So wow! Primo lenses made in 1989. This beautiful glass on a $250,000 camera body, which is called the DXL2. So that's why it looks just so phenomenal. We have amazing glass on. Cinematographer knew exactly how to capture our vision.
It was beautiful. And then to complement that was our composer Matteo, which I also just have to say, because Matteo Guastamacchio, great name.
The best name. What a name. I thought my name sounded Italian, but wow, when you have Matteo Guastamacchio.
But he did all of the sound, the composing, the
sound design.
It's beautiful what he does in it. It's absolutely lovely. So the marriage of all creative skills is just
which is what I love, and it shows, which is what I loved about it. Before I let you go, what would you like to say to people out there who want to get their citizenship? They're intimidated. They don't know what to do. What would you say?
I'd say what you need to do is track down the name of your parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents that date back to Italy. Try to find out that village, gather that information up, and go to Italy Mondo and try to set up a meeting so they can find out if you qualify. Because once you find out if you qualify, then you can start the process. And that process can take a while now because it's more and more people are waking up to the idea that they want European Union status and, Italian citizenship.
You could do it yourself too. I know people who've done it themselves. It'll take much longer. My husband's done it himself. He finally got a little bit of help from the Polish consulate, and it's taken him forever.
Yeah, I have met people who have done it themselves, and they basically had to translate everything American side, everything in America into Italian, and it has to be perfect.
And it has to be perfect.
All your legal paperwork from Italy shipped over and have an apostille stamp on it. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot. So getting the help
it can be done if you're willing to do the legwork. You can be done.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. This is a great film. Even thinking about it brings a smile to my face. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And we've got to get it around in the area to be seen by some more Italian groups, because I think people would really enjoy it. I'm so glad you both joined me today. I really had a great time talking to you about this film.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
If people want to know more about it, they can go to makemeitalian.com and follow us on social media with make.me.italian.
Yeah, and talk about it, because the film festivals need to hear about it. So that's great. Let's push it out there. So we'll start with this podcast too. I'm just thrilled to have you joining us.
Thank you very much.
So say it again.
It's been a true pleasure being on this show with you.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, from that first moment of going out to dinner, I'm like, wait, what's this idea of his? And then you finally see the finished product of what you both did, and it's like, this is exceptional. So well done. I'm sure you have a longer feature film in your futures. I'm certain.
Yes. Yeah. We're writing the prequel actually right now as a feature.
Oh, that's wonderful. And will that be a longer version?
Yeah, that's going to be, hour and a half, 2-hour film, hopefully shot in Italy someday. So.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that. You know what? I'll be an extra in your film. No problem.
Please do. Please do. You're cast. You're cast.
Done. All right. Thank you both, Stephanie and Bryan Mazzarello. Delightful to talk to you both. Make Me Italian is the film. And write to Bryan, write to Steph, go on the website of the film. I think you'll learn a lot about it. And thanks for joining us. You can find our interview on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, and then all the audio platforms as an audio podcast or on iHeartRadio. We're on Amazon and Apple, just about wherever you get your podcasts. Put in Deborah Cobell Live and Little Italy Podcasts, and our interview will pop up. So thanks for joining us, everybody, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.